My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Jesus, today the disciples of John the Baptist come up to you with a question. They're just confused about you, your teachings, and your disciples, and specifically about the way in which you fast, or rather, the way your disciples fast. The gospel goes like this. The disciples of John approached Jesus and said, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one patches an old cloak with a piece of unshrunken cloth, for its fullness pulls away from the cloak, and the tear gets worse. People do not put new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins burst, the wine spills out, and the skins are ruined. Rather, they pour new wine into fresh wine skins, and both are preserved." Well, Jesus, here we see you explaining your answer to the disciples of John with three different images, metaphors. First of all, you talk about a bridegroom and guests at a wedding. And you refer to yourself indirectly as the bridegroom. And you ask, why would your disciples be fasting as long as the bridegroom is with them? But then, Lord, you give this subtle yet ominous prediction that one day the bridegroom will be taken away. And then your disciples will fast. Quite a contrast, Lord, between a wedding feast and fasting. While the bridegroom is with them, they will not fast. And when the bridegroom has been taken away, they will. The second image or metaphor, Lord, you talk about clothing, sewing, patches. You say that no one patches an old cloak with unshrunken cloth. Now, if anyone praying right now, talking to you, Lord, right now, has never picked up a needle and thread in their life, then they probably have, honestly, no idea about what you're talking about. If you, Lord, yourself had not actually worked on patching clothing on your own, or maybe at Mary's side, then maybe you just had observed your mother at work, and you asked her about her work and what she was doing, and maybe you saw her and she explained to you exactly how to sew on a patch. And maybe what you learned from your mother you took with you on in your ministry, on your journey as you traveled about. Specifically, Lord, you remark that if someone were to make the mistake of putting new cloth as a patch, then when after the first wash, that new cloth is going to shrink and it's going to tear away at the edges that it had patched, and it's just going to make the tear worse. Then, Lord, the third image or metaphor. You talk about wine and wineskins. Now, of course, nowadays, we only know about wine which comes in bottles, or at very worst, wine which comes in cartons, but hopefully no one knows too much about that. Wine in wineskins. A wineskin is a pouch of leather. New wine would be poured into a new pouch of leather, and as that new wine began to ferment, it would release gases that would stretch the new wineskin to its final shape. Old wineskins were still useful, but only for old wine that was not going to ferment any further. And Lord, what you're describing is that if someone poured new wine into an old wineskin, well, the old wineskin had already been stretched out. It couldn't stretch anymore. And as the new wine would ferment, the gases would stretch the old wineskin beyond any elasticity left in it, and it would tear, spilling the wine and tearing the old wineskin. Lord, what is so especially edifying about this gospel passage is that we see that you were a man familiar with both festivity and austerity. Festivity, the very first image that you turn to in order to answer the disciples of John, is the image of a wedding and the wedding guests and the bridegroom. Lord, you had lived it. We've read about it in John chapter 2 when you were present at the wedding feast of Cana. And growing up in Nazareth, undoubtedly you would have attended all sorts of weddings of your friends, of your relatives, of your neighbors growing up. You knew what a wedding party was like. You knew what it was like to have the bridegroom walk into the center of the party. You knew what it was like with all the wedding guests eating and talking and drinking and dancing. Lord, you were part of that. Lord, we read how you attended one wedding, and we can imagine that you liked weddings and that you reflected on them fondly such that you would bring them up in your preaching. And again, Lord, we see you a man familiar with wine, new and old, and with the whole process of making it, storing it, transporting it, sharing it. But Lord, in addition to these two allusions to festive events, to joyful partaking of in weddings and of wine, we also see you, Lord, make reference to austerity, sobriety, sacrifice, mortification in this gospel passage. Because you make reference to when the bridegroom will leave, and you say that, yes, your disciples will fast when the bridegroom does go. That will be part of the life of your disciples. And so we ask ourselves now, is fasting a part of my life? Perhaps not fasting from food as a day-to-day practice, but fasting in one way or another every day, some kind of sacrifice, some kind of self-denial. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. Well, Lord, how can we possibly call ourselves Christians if every day we do not deny ourselves and take up our cross? Those small acts of denial, Lord, those are our ways of fasting. But also, Lord, perhaps more subtly, when you talk about sewing a patch onto an old cloak, that in its own way reveals a certain aspect of the austerity with which you lived your life. Well, Lord, we see you being a man who knows how to resurrect old clothing with a good patch. You don't simply move on to the next article of clothing as soon as something gets torn. You take the time to fix it, and then you humbly wear the clothing which perhaps is not absolutely perfect, absolutely pristine, absolutely new. For our own Christian life, Lord, we can follow your example both in this familiarity with festivity and with austerity. Teach us, Lord, to know how to celebrate while the bridegroom is with us. Teach us, Lord, to know how to fast, even in some small way, on a daily basis. Teach us, Lord, to know how to partake in wine like a Christian and to share that wine like a Christian, but also to know how to be austere with ourselves, perhaps with the way we dress, I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.